This is the DRS Sports Podcast, episode 85. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I'm your host, Sheldon Alexander, with a special reminder to like and subscribe to our YouTube page so that you never miss any of our expert betting insights. Speaking of, another win against the spread as we were on the Celtics minus 3.5, bringing the record to 39-29 against the spread in the play-in/playoffs, and an overall NBA record against the spread of 51-33-1 this season on this pod talking basketball. Surprise, surprise. Again, the Warriors and Celtics have yet to lose 2 games in a row. Celtics with a huge bounce back, just like we said they would. Yeah, I mean, Celtics improved to 7-0 in the postseason following a loss, but the biggest stat was there's definitely the same stat with the Warriors, right? Like we talked about it last pod, where we discussed the stat of the highest points per game differential following a loss in the last 50 postseasons. And that the Celtics this season were the number 4 team on that list in the last 50 postseasons at 15.5, plus 15.5 highest point per game differential. And the Warriors are the 5th team on that list in the last 50 postseasons, right? So you look at that, 15.5 for the Celtics, they won by 16. I mean, that is just pretty funny, like when you look at it from that viewpoint. But now we get to the interesting part to me, because now, okay, well, things would tell us that now it's going to go to the Warriors, right? And you look at game 4 is Friday night in Boston. Celtics favored by 4 points. And again, everything I just laid out should tell us that I should be on the Warriors, but you know that I am not. I discussed it last pod where I'm on the Celtics to win the next 2 games. I think this is where they win this series. And the interesting thing to me, right? Look at this game, and I feel like we talked about adjustments and what possible adjustments you could see going into this game. And the one thing to me was Jaylen Brown and the way that he was aggressive going at Draymond Green. You talked about if the Warriors just ran out of gas late, if that's a thing that might have happened to them in this game. Well, one thing to me is Steph Curry's going to get his points. We've always talked about that, but it's how you force him to get his points, right? And I think Steph Curry still getting to 30, but like he's working hard for those buckets. And I think we almost forget how difficult it is to hoist like 30-foot jumpers for a whole game. Like that is tiring, right? Like we kind of, because we've seen him do it so easily for so long, we kind of take it for granted and we're just like, oh yeah, Steph, and he's going to get his 30. It's like, no, but that's really, really tough to do with Marcus Smart, like elbowing you in the ribs while you're doing it the entire time. And so you're kind of wearing him down. And I wanted to get mad at Marcus Smart at numerous points during that game because he's just not a good point guard. Like from a point guard standpoint, it was like the Celtics would be up by multiple possessions and it's like, oh, this is too easy now, let's do something dumb and just throw it to the other team. And it's like, what are you guys like? What? Just make the basic pass. Anyways, when you look at how this game played out, Celtics, as you mentioned, up 12 points at the break. And then in the third quarter Warriors, here's the stat. The Warriors in the third quarter are plus 43 in this series. All other quarters in this series, the Celtics are plus 52. That's just a weird stat. But we've seen the third quarter Warriors come out to play over and over again during their run of this, era of Golden State Warriors basketball, turning a 12-point deficit and an 18-point deficit at one point in the game to them being up 1 was just insane. But you had crazy things like that 7-point play, essentially the Warriors ended up getting, or 7-point possession. Absolutely insane. But at the end of the day, are you relying on all these things to happen to consistently be in a game? And we're at the point now where Steph Curry is going to do what Steph Curry does. As you mentioned, they lost the Klay Thompson game. And to me, I thought if they were going to win this series, you have to win the Klay Thompson games. Like you won the game already where Klay didn't play well. That's like a bonus. That is great. That's great. But you need to win the Klay Thompson. If I were to believe that the Warriors were going to win the series, they had to win the Klay Thompson games because I think there's going to be 2. in this whole series. Right. Like, sure. And that's my made up mathematical equation. Obviously there's no scientific science behind that at all. Right. Fourth quarter, Celtics run away with it. You got Marcus Smart banking in threes. You knew it was over at that point.
Yeah.
That crazy stat of Brown, Tatum, and Smart, first trio to combine for 25 and 5 in a finals game since 1984. Now, that's the thing to me that's very interesting, because Tatum and Brown, they're going to get their buckets because they're taking all the shots. Marcus Smart now, I didn't like how he got to the 20 points, but the fact that he did wears down Steph just a little, right? You're also, you're adding mileage to what Steph Curry has to do on the defensive end, which adds mileage to his next jump shot. The other flip side to that is Jaylen Brown's aggressive nature going at Draymond Green. That was a huge part as well, because Draymond was a complete non-factor. The triple single, as Chuck likes to call it, and a foul out. Like, my guy had more fouls than he had points, rebounds, or assists in that game. That's an unacceptable performance. But again, I think a lot of it goes to Jaylen Brown. Right off the jump in this game, Jaylen Brown was just aggressive and going right at Draymond Green. 6 of 9 in that first quarter, 17 points in that first quarter, most by any Celtic in a finals quarter in 50 years, tying that record. And again, you're tiring out Draymond. And Draymond, at this stage of his career, it's going to be all energy. It's going to be all, you know, like that intensity, all the rah-rah stuff that people, you know, kind of discount. But when it's not there, that's how flat the Warriors look. Now, if we want stats to back that up, like you talked about the hustle plays, points in the paint, Celtics, 52-26. Offensive rebounds, Celtics, 15-6. Second chance points, Celtics, 22-11. So that backs up the eye test of just, you know, wanting it more, for lack of a better term, from the Celtics, or feeding off the juice of the crowd, however you want to frame it. But I think the real adjustment came, Grant Williams, an extra day of rest clearly helped his knee, but also Robert Williams. Nope, flip that around. Grant Williams, I got my Williams is mixed up there. Robert Williams with the extra day with his knee clearly helped. Grant Williams coming in, playing alongside Robert Williams, that helped a lot with the intangibles, the hustle plays, the getting on the glass, the extra rebounds. When Marcus Smart takes another terrible shot, one of those two Williamses were there to get the rebound and give the extra possession. Those little things, I think, were really big adjustments by Udoka, and it's going to be interesting to see how Kerr counters that, because I said it on the last pod, the Celtics needed to play smaller more, meaning not play the two bigs together as much, as in Horford and Williams. And they did that. Williams subbed out, like quick sub in that first quarter, and they brought in White. That was like early in the first quarter, they made that substitution and played smaller. And the way that just saves their big guys in terms of Al Horford and Williams, and just, you know, you're not playing them as many minutes because you're subbing them out for each other, essentially. That just ends up being an advantage because they end up playing fresher. Now it's on to the Warriors. Can they match up against that? And Draymond can't be a better big than either of those two guys. So I want to see what happens here for the Warriors. I don't know if it's, you know, you hear people calling for Kuminga just because you need like some form of athleticism to try to counter what the Warriors or what the Celtics have been able to do. But something's got to give here if you are the Golden State Warriors, because I know the flip-flop nature of this is one thing, and to me, it's on the Celtics more, what they do in game 4, because I think we just seen what the Warriors not at their best, because Draymond played terribly, but the good Klay Thompson game, which is the key to all of this. You need a good Klay Thompson or a good Jordan Poole who through 3 games looks shook. Like he played well when it was a blowout in game 2, but I wasn't expecting Jordan Poole to come out in the Boston Garden in the NBA Finals and have a good game, right? Like I was
for sure.